If you've been experiencing frame drops, screen flickering, or weird visual glitches in your games after the January Windows update, stop what you're doing. Nvidia has officially confirmed what's causing it. The Windows 11 update KB507-4109 is breaking gaming performance on Nvidia GPUs, and Nvidia themselves are telling people to uninstall it. Yes, you heard that right. A mandatory security update that fixes 114 vulnerabilities, and Nvidia's official recommendation is to remove it if you're facing problems. Microsoft pushed out update KB507-4109 on January 13th as a part of the regular Patch Tuesday cycle. This wasn't supposed to be controversial, it was labeled as a minor security update, bundling fixes for over 100 security vulnerabilities, plus some quality improvements. Things like reducing battery drain on systems with NPUs, fixing secure boot certificate handling, and addressing various other issues. For most people, this update installed without any drama. But for a significant number of NVIDIA GeForce users, things went sideways pretty much immediately. The report started flooding in across NVIDIA's GeForce forums, Reddit, Microsoft's Feedback Hub, tech support sites, basically everywhere gamers hang out online. And the symptoms? They're all over the place, but there's a pattern. First up, frame rate drops. We're talking about 10 to 20 frames per second average drops in games that were running perfectly fine before the update. And it's not just the average frame rate that's tanking. People are reporting that their 1% lows and 0.1% lows are getting hammered even worse. If you don't know what that means, basically it's those stutters and hitches you feel during gameplay. Your game might still be averaging 60 frames per second, but those dips down to 30 or 40 make it feel terrible. Then there's the visual issues. People are seeing artifacts, those weird rectangular blocks, strange shadows, banding effects, things that look like your GPU is dying. Games like Forza, Horizon 5 have been specifically mentioned with weird shadow artifacts appearing on the map and in-game. Other people are reporting white flashes, screen flickering, and visual corruption during motion-heavy scenes. And if that wasn't bad enough, there are the black screens. Some people are getting short black screen flashes while gaming. Others are experiencing longer black screen episodes where the display just goes dark and you're sitting there wondering if your PC just died. In some cases, people have to reboot their entire system to get the display back. There are also reports of desktop wallpapers resetting to black. Now, what's interesting here is that this doesn't seem to be affecting AMD Radeon users. All the reports are coming from people with Nvidia cards. That's a pretty strong indicator that something specific in this Windows update is conflicting with Nvidia's graphics stack. So naturally, when this all started happening, people's first instinct was to blame Nvidia's drivers. And that made sense at the time because Nvidia had just released new drivers in January, versions 5, 8.2.28, and 5.9.1.86. People figured maybe the new drivers were buggy. But as more people tested things, a pattern emerged. Users started reporting that when they completely removed the drivers using DDU, that's Display Driver Uninstaller, and did clean installs of older drivers, the problems persisted. But when they uninstalled the Windows Update KB507-4109, everything suddenly went back to normal. That's when Nvidia took notice. And to their credit, they didn't stay silent about it. An Nvidia representative named Manuel Guzman posted on the official GeForce forums, and this is what he said. Even though it started after a Windows 11 update, we are looking into it. As far as I know, the only way to resolve it appears to be uninstalling KB507-4109. Now, that's a pretty significant statement. Nvidia is basically saying, yeah, this Windows update is causing problems, and until we figure out what's going on, your best bet is to remove it. Think about that for a second. A major tech company is officially recommending that users uninstall a security update. That doesn't happen unless the problem is serious and widespread enough to warrant it. So NVIDIA's engineers are now investigating what specific interaction between this Windows update and their drivers is causing these issues. They've acknowledged the reports of frame drops, artifacting, and black screens, and they're working on a solution. But in the meantime, they're being upfront with users about what the temporary fix is. Now, before everyone panics and starts uninstalling updates, let's talk about who's actually experiencing these problems. Because here's the thing, not everyone who installed KB5074109 is having issues. This appears to be one of those frustrating situations where it's affecting specific hardware configurations. Some people with RTX 40 series cards are reporting problems. Some RTX 30 series users are having issues. Even some people on older cards are experiencing these symptoms. But it's not universal across any particular GPU model or series. What makes this even more complicated is that it seems to depend on your entire system configuration. Your specific GPU model, which driver version you're running, what CPU you have, what motherboard, what monitor setup, all of these factors seem to play a role in whether or not you're affected. Some people are playing intensive games and seeing massive frame drops. Others are playing the same games on similar hardware and not noticing any issues at all. Some users only see problems in specific titles, while their other games run fine. The most commonly reported affected game has been Forza Horizon 5, where people are seeing those shadow artifacts and visual glitches. But there are reports across all kinds of games, open world titles, competitive shooters. Basically, anything graphically intensive seems to be able to trigger these issues if your system is one of the affected configurations. What's particularly concerning is that even light gaming might not show the problem. Several users have said they only noticed the issues when they fired up more demanding games. So you might think you're fine, then you launch something intensive and boom, frame drops and artifacts everywhere. The key thing to understand here is that if you installed the update and you're not experiencing any of these problems, frame drops, stuttering, artifacting, black screens, then you're probably fine. This isn't a everyone panic and uninstall immediately situation. It's more of a if you're experiencing these specific symptoms, here's what's causing them, and here's how to fix it situation. Now let's talk about Microsoft's role in all this, because it gets a bit messy. When these reports first started coming in, Microsoft's initial response was basically to point at Nvidia. The implication was that maybe Nvidia's drivers weren't properly handling changes in the update, so it was a driver issue, not a Windows issue. But as the reports piled up and Nvidia started investigating, the evidence kept pointing back at KB5074109. And here's where it gets interesting. This update has actually been causing problems beyond just the gaming issues. Microsoft has acknowledged that KB5074109 caused some systems to not boot correctly. Some people couldn't get past the Windows loading screen and had to use Windows Recovery to get their systems working again. That's a pretty serious problem for what was supposed to be a routine security update. Microsoft has since released a follow-up optional update, KB5074105, that addresses some of the black screen issues. And according to Nvidia's manual on the forums, this newer update does seem to fix some of the boot-related black screen problems. But here's the catch, the gaming-specific issues like artifacts and frame drops reportedly persist even after installing KB5074105. So while Microsoft has addressed some of the problems, the gaming performance issues are still there. And as of right now, Microsoft has not officially acknowledged the gaming-specific problems that NVIDIA users are experiencing. They've addressed the boot issues, the black screens in general terms, and some other problems. But they haven't specifically said, yes, we know, KB5074109 is causing frame drops and artifacting for NVIDIA GPU users. There are also reports of other issues with this update beyond gaming. Some people have had problems with Outlook crashing, issues with Azure Virtual Desktop sign-ins, remote desktop connection problems. It's been a bit of a mess all around. Now here's where this gets tricky, and it's something we need to talk about. KB5074109 isn't just some random update, it's a cumulative security update that patches 114 security vulnerabilities in Windows 11. These aren't minor issues. We're talking about CVEs, common vulnerabilities and exposures that could potentially be exploited by malicious actors. When Microsoft labels something as a mandatory security update and pushes it out on Patch Tuesday, it's because there are real security concerns that need to be addressed. So when NVIDIA recommends uninstalling this update, they're essentially asking users to make a difficult choice: gaming performance and stability versus security. If you uninstall KB5074109, your games will probably run fine again. Your frame rates will go back to normal, the artifacts will disappear, the black screens will stop, but you're also leaving your system vulnerable to whatever security holes this update was designed to patch. Now, for some people, that trade-off might be worth it. If you're primarily using your PC for gaming, and you're careful about what websites you visit and what files you download, you might decide that having a working gaming system is more important than having the absolute latest security patches for a few weeks. But for others, especially people who use their PCs for work, handle sensitive data, or just want to maintain the highest level of security, uninstalling a major security update is a non-starter. This is why it's so frustrating. Nobody should have to choose between security and functionality. Your system should be able to be both secure and working properly. But right now, for affected users, those things seem to be mutually exclusive. All right, so let's get practical. If you're not sure whether you have this update installed, here's how to check. Open up your Windows settings. You can do this by hitting the Windows key and typing Settings, or you can right-click the Start button and select Settings from the menu. Go to Windows Update, then click on Update History. This will show you all the recent updates that have been installed on your system. Look for KB50741009 in the list. If you see it there, you've got the problematic update installed. Your system build number will be either 26100.76, 23, or 26. 200.76, 23 if you're on this update. You can also check your build number by going to Settings, then System, then About. Scroll down, and you'll see your Windows specifications, including the build number. Now, if you have this update installed but you're not experiencing any problems, your games are running fine, you're not seeing frame drops or artifacts or black screens, then you probably don't need to do anything. Remember, not everyone is affected by this issue. But if you've been having any of the symptoms we've talked about, performance drops, visual glitches, crashes, black screens, and you see KB50741009 in your update history, then there's a good chance this update is your problem. If you've determined that you need to uninstall this update, here's exactly how to do it. And there's a little quirk you need to know about that's been tripping people up. First, go to Settings, then Windows Update, then Update History. The bottom of the Update History page, you'll see an option that says Uninstall Updates. Click on that. Now, here's where it gets a bit weird. You might not immediately see KB50741009 in the list of updates you can uninstall. This has been confusing a lot of people, and they've been posting on the Nvidia forums saying they can't find the update to remove it. The reason for this is that before you can uninstall KB50741009, you first need to uninstall another update called KB5074105. This is that optional follow-up update I mentioned earlier that Microsoft released to fix some of the black screen issues. So, in the Uninstall Updates window, look for KB5074105 first. Click on it and select Uninstall. Your system will process that, and you might be prompted to restart. You can choose to restart later if you want to continue with the next step. After KB5074105 is uninstalled, go back to that same Uninstall Updates window. Now you should see KB50741009 appear in the list. Click on it and select Uninstall. Once both updates are uninstalled, restart your computer. After your system boots back up, your games should return to normal performance if this update was indeed your problem. Now here's something really important. After you uninstall these updates, you need to pause Windows updates. Otherwise, Windows will just automatically reinstall them the next time it checks for updates, and you'll be right back where you started. To pause updates, go to Settings, Windows Update, and you'll see an option to pause updates. You can pause them for up to 5 weeks. I'd recommend pausing them for at least a few weeks to give Microsoft and Nvidia time to release a proper fix. Keep an eye on the Nvidia forums, tech news sites, and your Windows Update settings. Eventually, either Microsoft will release a fixed version of this update or Nvidia will release a driver update that works properly with KB5074109, or both companies will coordinate a solution. So, what's the path forward here? When can we expect an actual fix? Well, Microsoft's next Patch Tuesday is scheduled for February 11th, 2026. That's when they typically release their monthly cumulative updates. There's a good chance that they'll address these gaming-specific issues in that update, assuming they can identify and fix the root cause in time. On Nvidia's side, they could potentially release a driver update that works around whatever changes Microsoft made in KB5074109. Driver updates from Nvidia don't follow a strict schedule, so they could push out a fix whenever they're ready. For now, if you're affected, you've got your options. Uninstall the update and accept the security trade-off, or deal with the performance issues and wait for a proper fix. Neither option is great, but at least you know what's causing the problem and what your choices are.